Final Fight is back on our screens. I've got Dave from YouTube channel, and he's also my good friend. He's with me on the virtual couch. Dave, we played Final Fight Arcade a few weeks ago, didn't we? And we said, let's take a look at the home computer versions. Here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought we'll have a look at ZX Spectrum, Commodore Amiga, and also Commodore 64, but not necessarily in that order.
So this footage, guys, is what Dave has kindly captured for me. And this is what you captured a few days ago, isn't it, mate? So Dave isn't playing now. This has already been pre-recorded. And we are going to see what is happening here. What's going on?
It's okay. So there's a bit of a delay when you actually load your character. So this is a version of Final Fight that was converted to disc that you could run off of a +3. So the eagle-eyed amongst you would have seen the +3 loading screen.
Oh my days, look at this.
I'm glad you said that.
This would have been very, very late, guys, if you didn't already know, in the ZX Spectrum's life cycle. And I say very late. I think this hit 1990. I might be wrong. But mate, how is this to play? I've never played the Specky version.
I think I can sum it up, Mike, in one word. Dreadful. Absolutely woeful. But to be honest, we've got to have some respect. This is ambitious.
Yeah.
They're trying to take a really, really awesome arcade game and bring it to the Spectrum. I mean, graphically, forgetting the colours because it's a Spectrum, they've actually done a decent job graphically. Because look, you can clearly see that that is Final Fight.
I agree. Big chunky sprites.
Yep.
This is it's an 8-bit. I mean, it's the weakest of the 8-bit home computers in a sense as well, if you compare it to the C64.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks okay. I mean, the monochrome is the Spectrum. You know what you're getting. And like you say, look at those character models.
Yeah.
I would be, if someone said to me, what game is this? I'd be like, that's Final Fight. It's a very dodgy version of Final Fight. But that's Final Fight. No 2-player option, I'm taking it, mate. Would it be take turns, or isn't there an option at all?
There didn't seem to be any 2-player options at all. Now, what was interesting was this, is I actually ran this on the Mr. FPGA, in case anybody's interested. But when we tried to run this, because me and Mike actually did try and run this using RetroArch, you know our good friend, the Ross Kemp or the Kempston? There's some weirdness that goes on with choosing a Kempston joystick in this particular game. I could not get it to work at all. I had to use the Sinclair joystick interface.
Really? That's interesting.
It was
That's
all messed
interesting.
up. All messed up.
Strange. Yeah, you might have heard me groan then, guys, when Dave mentioned RetroArch. we had such an ordeal trying to get the ZX Spectrum working on RetroArch. I know there are standalone emulators for ZX Spectrum. It's just I'm having trouble finding one. That's why we don't do a lot of ZX Spectrum games on old school series, guys. And it's a computer day for me. I know you're more C64 growing up, but for me, the Specky, it's got a lot of memories. I've played a lot of Spectrum games.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to actually have a +3 that my brother-in-law gave me as a present, which I fixed up and fixed the disk drive. So I've got a +3 which I've played some games on, which is cool. Yeah, like you say, the C64 is what I grew up with, but I'm impressed with some of the Spectrum games that I've played.
I was going to say then, mate, sorry, why was it saying dustbin on the bottom left?
Because there was a dustbin on the screen that I could attack, because, you know, they hid, I think we said about chicken legs and things, you know, energy pickups. In fact, there's one on the screen now, but I can barely see where that dustbin was. Oh, yeah,
it says burger now. Yeah.
Sorry, it was a burger.
That's cool. It says the characters' names as well. It's probably, I guess the reasoning for that is because everything's the same colour.
Yeah, to make it distinguishable.
The coders. Yeah. Yes, the coders were like, look, there's a burger there. You can't see it, but we promise you there's definitely a burger by your feet.
And there's definitely a dustbin that you can knock over.
This looks terrible, doesn't it? But again, the Spectrum, very, very limited in what they could do. It's amazing. Sometimes, if I take my brother, for example, I was like, Matt, have you checked out Final Fight? Or did you know Final Fight exists on Spectrum? He's like, no way. People just don't believe you. It's like, how could that even be a thing? But here it is, guys. And this is the first time I'm seeing it in action. I've seen screenshots of it before, but I've never seen it, like I say, in action. Dave's doing a stellar job here. It's very slow-paced compared to the arcade. Or does the guy come out of the door and sit on the wall and whistle?
From what I can remember, yeah, the sort of end of level... Oh, no, actually, do I just walk down the stairs?
Yeah, it looks like you just walked down the stairs, mate.
Yeah, there you go. I walk downstairs, and there's the next part of the level. Look.
Although this is faithful to the arcade. This is... Oh, look, it's that guy.
It's got the big guy. Yeah, the big, really, really difficult to bash up guy. Bill... Is that Bill Bull? He's called Bill Bull.
Bulldog. I think Bulldog is what he's known to his mates. But yeah, this is... it's cool. It's cool that they've done this. It's very, very interesting to see how these big arcade coin-op hits, this was definitely a hit, how they pan out on the ZX Spectrum and the other home computers. Because I think Street Fighter, speaking of Capcom, or thinking of Capcom, Street Fighter made it to the Speccy and other home computers as well. Street Fighter 2, rather. Yeah,
Street Fighter 2 did. That's one we have to cover in the future, because there's a couple of versions of Street Fighter 2 on home systems that are dreadful, that are really bad. Like this is, how this is running. Very bad.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I think Street Fighter 2 on the Spectrum is... I haven't played it, but I've seen screenshots, and it's more or less of this kind of deal. Monochrome, very small, squared-off screen, because you're not going to get this in a big screen. But anyway, guys, on to... Look at that.
The Commodore.
We're loading up... Or I say we are. Dave is loading up the C64 here.
Yeah, I had to include this just for nostalgia for anyone that's a Commodore 64 owner. I had to include that and then sped up the footage.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Such a good... Look at that, though. That already looks cleaner. Obviously, it's more colourful because there's colours on the C64. But I can't wait to see this version. This is the version I'm looking forward to seeing the most, because 8-bit... How are they going to do this? Oh, wow, look at this.
They've got 3 characters on the screen. That looks quite familiar.
It does.
It's got one up on the SNES version. It's got all 3 characters.
That's right, yeah. That's correct, yeah.
And here we are.
Okay. Yeah, that's very C64. So what they've gone for by the looks of things, straight off the bat here, rather than be ultra faithful... like the Speccy was trying with the big, chunky sprites, just like the arcade. This has gone more, shrink down the sprites. It looks more playable, this does.
It is. It's a lot more playable. You can just see by the way the characters are moving. Everything's much, much quicker than the jerky movements we had on the Spectrum. And it is. It's a lot of fun. It's quite a good version of Final Fight, to be honest. It's not bad for a home computer conversion.
It looks cool. Yeah, this looks really cool. Although, for some reason, you're playing as Guy, and there was another guy that you were drop kicking then. I don't know how faithful these enemies are to the arcade game.
No.
I think this guy is actually with the spikes and the, like, that weird, like, jacket thing he's wearing. With it looks like a face on it. It's not a face. I'm trying to think what the logo
looks
is.
Looks like a Biohazard logo, almost.
That's it.
Yeah.
Biohazard logo. I think he is, but that other guy, the blue guy, and then you had the red guy who's wearing exactly the same... Well, he's exactly the same sprite as you. I don't remember seeing that in the arcade.
No, I don't recall that either. I think all the characters were unique in terms of you and others. It wasn't a case of there being another version of you that walks on the screen in a different outfit.
I'll be interested in finding out. Obviously, you already know you've played this. This is your footage, but I'm looking forward to seeing if the backgrounds as they scroll on this are the same as the Speccy. It was all copy and paste all the way along.
That will be interesting to see. We'll see as it sort of moves along. But
you put them in like a headlock then?
You can, yeah. I think you can go up to them and press buttons to grab hold of them, essentially. Doing a lot of jump kicking, because that seems quite an effective attack.
No music on this.
No, interesting. Just sound effects. It's a shame, because I'd have loved to have heard the music, because, again, the Commodore 64 SID chip was capable of producing some pretty good music.
Yeah, that's why I said. There's Guy again, like your twin.
Yeah, looks exactly like him. Slightly different hair, though, I think.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, the C64, I think... RoboCop, I'm thinking, the side-scroller. I loved RoboCop on the Speccy. C64 version was slightly different, if I remember correctly. You could jump.
Yeah.
And, again, when you're playing, there was music, like... There might have been on the Speccy, actually, whilst you're playing. I can't remember. But it was such a thing, wasn't it, on the C64, having really good music. Not just while you're playing, sometimes when the game was loading as well.
Yeah, and in some instances, and this goes way before, Namco started doing it with Ridge Racer and Tekken, you could actually play a game whilst the main game was loading up. One such example was with Ghostbusters. I remember as a kid, it made me jump out of my skin, all of a sudden Space Invaders comes up on my screen as the game's loading, as Ghostbusters is loading, and it's the music as well. It makes you jump out your skin, and I loved it. In fact, I would stop the tape and just keep playing that Space Invaders clone.
What you're saying there has brought back so many memories, man, about the Space Invaders clone. It blew me away as a kid. I never owned a C64, and guys, we're going way off Final Fight, but this is what we do. We've got the Final Fight 64 in the background. We're talking about memories. But, there's a guy who lived around the corner from me, James. We used to go around his house. I've talked about this on the channel before, guys, but anyone who's new, this guy, or this kid that we knew, his mum would only let us in one at a time. So my brother, me, and another guy would sit on the wall, and we'd go in one at a time. It was very dodgy. It looked like we were 7-year-old kids going in to buy drugs and coming out. But, he had a C64, and that's where I would get my C64 action in, because I was a Specky owner, and the C64 blew me away. Because, look, it's just visually, like you say, the sound chip. Oh, wow.
Yeah, there you go, the underground section. Look at how graphically different it is compared to the Spectrum.
Yeah, it's... I mean, obviously, it's a lot better. It's more vibrant. The sprites work. It works for this.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously far more playable. The big chunky sprites didn't work for the Spectrum version. Everything looked a bit slow and sluggish.
I think that might have been why. Had they done what the porters did for this version on the Spectrum, I think the Spectrum version would have ran better. I think there's something in the fact they use those big chunky sprites and backgrounds that slowed down the Spectrum version. Because I also played Target Renegade, which we did. We covered that on a video. Check that out, shameless plug. And Target Renegade runs really well. That's a really good brawl 'em up.
Target Renegade is one of my favourites, mate. On the ZX Specky or the C64?
Specky. I played the Specky version using the Mister.
I don't know if it was on the C64, you know. It must have been.
Yeah, I can only ever recall Spectrum, but then that's because we talked about it and you said, let's check that out, and I was really impressed with it. So I might have a look and see if there is a C64 version, because we could make version comparisons a bit of a thing, perhaps.
Yeah, it's interesting. Target Renegade, guys, for anyone who didn't know, is where it all began, really. It's this type of game. It's a brawler.
Yeah.
Or a brawl 'em up, as Dave says. And it started life on the Specky, I think. I had the Specky version. It actually started out as Renegade. Target Renegade's the sequel.
Ah, okay.
And it spawned all of these games, basically. That's what I believe, anyway. I can't think of any games before Renegade which were brawlers. Maybe Double Dragon in the arcade, I don't know. But anyway, wow.
Here we go.
Okay.
Everything's switched up a gear. So you know what this is. You know what machine this is, because it's one that's near and dear to you, and it's one of my all-time favourite home computer systems, full stop.
Yeah, straight away I can tell from the art style, man. It's going to be the Commodore Amiga. Music by the Judge.
Yeah, here we go.
Is it Judge Jules?
Hope it is. Julesie's awesome.
Metro City, a well-known crime.
You can just see the graphical difference just from this map screen.
Yeah, and that is very faithful to the arcade. It's more or less identical so far.
So here we go.
This looks good. This looks really good.
It's a bit ropey, and the hit detection for when you're punching and kicking the characters is all over the place, as you're going to see. It looks great, but my goodness me, the gameplay's not been ported across well at all, Mike. It's dreadful.
Really, it looks... Oh, it's Bill Bull, it said at the top there. It looks very pretty, coming from the C64, obviously.
Yeah.
It's 16-bit. But it's a shame that this, or like you say, this doesn't play as well as our favourite coin-up version.
It doesn't. It's very, very
or the
ropey.
SNES version. How is it compared with the SNES?
I'd say the SNES version plays better.
SNES version's a very good port, actually.
Yeah. This version, a lot of the problem is the hit detection. So what I mean by that is when you punch or kick a character, it just doesn't seem to register some of the time. And you can get yourself caught with 2 or 3 enemies just beating the living daylights out of you, and you won't be able to move. You'd have noticed with the couple of Bill Bulls that were attacking me, I could not move. They were just beating the living daylights out of me.
A poor hit detection in a game like this...
It's criminal. It's criminal.
It is criminal, yeah. It's just not going to be enjoyable. Again, visually it looks good. It looks a little bit quick. Everything looks a bit quicker than the arcade.
It's very fast, yeah. I'd say too fast, because that's not how the arcade, or indeed SNES and Mega CD versions ran. They didn't run this fast.
So, mate, the 100... I know what the answer's going to be. I don't even know what I'm asking. Everyone watching is going to know. But, yeah, the $64,000 question. Out of the 3 home computer versions we are featuring on this video, which has been your favourite and which was the worst?
Well, the clue is in the 64,000. I mean, the Commodore 64 version for me is the best one in terms of playability. The worst in terms of playability, I'd say the Spectrum version. I would say that one because it's so slow. It's impossible to see what's going on.
that version's got nothing going for it, is it? I mean,
chunky sprites.
It's just, yeah, chunky sprites, I suppose. I don't think I could spend any amount of time with that version. The C64 version, I will go away and play. This looks really nice, this Amiga version does. The art style they've got spot on.
They have. It's just a shame that the code and the gameplay is as poor as it is, because if they'd have done that well, this would be a brilliant version to play.
Yeah, it just goes to show how powerful the Amiga was, how capable it was.
Yeah, it was capable of some arcade perfect hits, that's definitely for sure.
What's the deal playing this, mate, on the home computers? Because you've got one button.
You have, yeah. So it's a lot of it is hold a direction, press the fire button to do something different, so to punch or to kick or to do, in this case, the whirlwind kick that I'm spamming the living daylights out of.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what they had to do to sort of mix the moves up and give you more.
That is something I always... see that clock at the top there?
Yeah.
And it keeps repeating. Remember we were talking last time on Arcade Memories Final Fight?
Yes.
Coin-op version, about that cheat that someone told me about when I was a kid. You got to the clock. That's what I meant, that type of clock. At the top of the screen, and you could basically then... You do Mike Hagar's special move on the clock.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true, guys. It's probably horse chod. But, yeah, you do Mike Hagar's special, and then you get to teleport kind of thing. You select any level in the game that you want. And I always was like, even as a kid, as a naive child, I was like, really? I can't see a coin-op game having that kind of thing.
No, same as. It does seem a bit strange, but maybe it's true. Who knows? It's one maybe we need to look into. Debunk the myth,
Oh,
as
look
it
at
were.
this. Yeah, we do need to debunk that myth. It's probably the worst myth of all time, but... Look at Billy Bull. He's everywhere.
I was impressed
Billy
how
Bulldog.
it did the whole, the scene of the subway coming in and then you getting on it. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, just this looks really... I know I keep saying it. It looks really nice, this does, but it's a shame. I mean, to me, it looks okay, playability-wise, but obviously I'm not playing it, so I wouldn't be able to feel where the hit detection or the lack of hit detection is, like you say.
Well, the good news is you'll be able to play it because it's on the Mega AGS that we've got set up on your WinUAE emulator, Mike, so you'll be able to check this one out and see what you think. Yeah, to give it a go.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at that. I don't remember these ladies. I don't remember them in the arcade version, guys.
They're in the Mega CD version. I definitely remember them from there.
They must be in the arcade version. They must be. I like the sound effects on this. Nice meaty sound effect when you hit someone. You've got the train. You can hear the subway train guys going over the track in the background there. I don't know if that's coming through on this because I always have to turn the game sound down so you can hear Dave and I. But sound effects are good, but again, no music.
And you see, I'm getting the living daylights beaten out of me, and I was struggling to get any sort of register, any kind of hit on them.
I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is decent. I would have liked to have seen, actually, and we've referenced this game before, guys, on the channel, because we have featured this game, actually, in our old school series. Go check out the playlist. Mighty Final Fight on the NES. I'd like to see that on the Amiga, because the Amiga would have done that perfectly.
It would have, yeah. I wonder if it ever did get released outside of the NES.
Maybe it did. Yeah, maybe it did. I don't know a lot about that game.
Worth looking at.
I know it is, yeah. I know it's an extremely enjoyable game, Mighty Final Fight. But, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this back-to-back-to-back kind of video. Let us know in the comments if you've played any of the home computer versions, or if there's any versions we haven't talked about on this video. Let us know if you've played any of them. What's your favourite? Apart from the coin-op. Obviously, the coin-op's the best version for a lot of people. For me, it is.
Yeah.
Apart from the coin-op version, guys, let us know in the comments your favourite version of Final Fight. Dave, thanks so much for capturing this footage. It's been really interesting. And we'll speak to you all soon, guys. Take care.